Good morning, everybody. We've got Michael and Charles from HomeBuying HomeSelling Association out of San Antonio, some of the best people in Texas to work with. I love working with these guys. I love the culture of their company, and they are here today to discuss buying a house subject to with a deceased homeowner. Like, what happens whenever you get a phone call and you discover that through this phone call the homeowners are deceased? Many people don't even understand what to do from that point to just buy the house in a normal fashion. But how are we going to buy the house with a deceased homeowner, and not only buy it, but buy it subject to? And that's what the guys here from HBHS are going to be discussing today. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I've done these types of transactions several times. Really good transactions to be in, man. Can y'all give me a little bit of input over there as to what this deal looked like for y'all?
Yeah, man. What's going on? How is everybody doing? Mike, what's up, man?
Good, man. Glad to be here on Propelio TV.
I'm excited for y'all, man. Let's talk about this. Like, what is this the first time y'all had ever done something like that? Was this something y'all had to figure out, or did you go out to the real estate education books and read up and learn how to do it, or did you kind of talk to your lawyers and figure out how to do it from there?
Well, it's been a progression, man. We've been doing all type of deals for a long time, and you build on your knowledge, and we actually had taken down some property before, and we actually have properties right now in our portfolio where the actual owners of the property, are deceased. So when we were approached with this transaction, it was just a no-brainer for us. There was a lot of equity in the property. The property was in fabulous condition, and the heirs were at odds, and they just didn't want their parents' name. That's the only thing they could agree on. They didn't want their parents' name to be called out at the auction. The last thing that their parents were going to experience here on Earth. So, and we find that a lot, and we actually share that with people when we encounter these type of transactions. Hey, don't let that be the last thing that's said about your parents here on Earth. So I'm going to let Michael chat about how we got the deal. We're going to get into this thing. It was a beautiful deal. And man, anybody out there that encounters this, if you run into this, there is a way to do it. So, Mike,
when you jump in on this, I would like for y'all to discuss. You said the heirs were at odds with each other, and after I've done as many houses as I've done, those can be extremely difficult. I'd like for y'all to really dive in on that side and how y'all were able to overcome the objections of the sellers or of the heirs being at odds with each other.
Yeah, I'll take care of that part, because I do a lot of the talking when it comes to that. And Mike, I know Mike's gonna get real technical with the numbers. But man, it was an exciting deal, man. It was 3 heirs, and they all were about 15 years apart, maybe 12 years apart. So none of them liked each other. One of them was extremely conservative. The other one was borderline, hippie. And the young one was just one of these new millennials, and so none of them got along. They all hated each other, but they agreed on one thing. They didn't want their parents' name, the last thing on Earth, to be called out at an auction losing a property. None of them wanted anything from the property, and we identified that very quickly. And so we're like, look, we're ready to step in and help. We're ready to step in and help all of you. So we had to coordinate with each one of them without talking to none of them together, and we had to appease each one of them what they all wanted. And the one thing that they could agree on was that what I just shared with you. How did we get that property anyway, Mike? I don't remember exactly.
So it has been a while, man, and do all the deals that we do. But this one was actually a referral from a wholesaler. A wholesaler who came to the office and said, hey, I have this deal. I know something can be done. I just don't know how to come about because the owners have passed and the 3 kids are on board. Like Charles said, they're not fond of each other. But the thing that kind of surprised me the most on this one was the solution for these 3 kids that came together was they wanted closure on their parents' name. That was their value. If we can get closure on their parents' name, that was really important to them for one reason or another. They didn't want the parents to have a foreclosure on their name, even though it didn't affect the kids in any way. That was very, very important to them. So once we figured out what the problem was, let's figure out the solution. Now, the solution was this doesn't make sense for us wholesale deal. And we're gonna break down the numbers, and you guys are gonna see how that works. Wholesaler came in and said, hey, I know there's something here, just don't know what's the next steps to do. Charles and I went to go look at the property. I was like, man, this is a beautiful home. We're going to talk about the numbers here in a minute. But yeah, wholesaler came in, said, hey, let's do this. Let's figure this out. We work with that wholesaler. We show them from start to finish. This is how we're going to do it. Of course, we did pay a wholesale fee. And that leads me to say this, all wholesale deals doesn't have to be your ugly, dirty, stinky houses that needs a lot of work. Your traditional wholesale deals. A wholesale deal is to sell a property that has some type of value, or wholesale a property that has some type of value. You're wholesaling a deal, and not just your traditional, and this thing needs about 40, 50 grand in rehab. There's huge equity. Putting something together that's going to provide value to someone, that's the wholesale deal. So, Daniel, give me a minute here or a second. So let me see if I can do this share screen real quick to make sure.
Yeah, please do, man. Like, I'm excited about this because this is a very common situation that I personally find myself in. For those that don't know much about my background, almost all of my marketing was done to probates, pre-foreclosures, and vacant properties. That was almost the only thing I ever marketed to until I got a hold of water lead lists. So I would see this type of opportunity show up often, and I think it's really cool that we're breaking this down live today for y'all.
All right, Dan, you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Are we all on the same page?
Yes, sir.
So we decided to title this, we'll take the unwanted inherited house. Now, these guys inherited, and again, like we said, they just wanted out for whatever reason. So we come across a property, and this is the property here. So you can see it's not your traditional, hey, man, this thing needs everything. This thing, it was almost flawless, Charles. Do you remember that when we first walked in?
Charles,
just a second. When we walked in, what was your initial thought?
Your internet browser window is still covering up the house. If you could minimize that, please.
All right, give me 1 second here.
There we go. All right, we lost your slides though.
Give me 1 second here, man. It's always a little tricky when we're doing this. So I know you guys see me, right?
Yep, I can see you right now.
So
when you're saying
Charles,
this was inherited,
both
of the parents had died, and there were 3 heirs in line. Had they already transferred ownership, or were they just inherited it but never took ownership?
So that was the thing. They actually had mom and dad, man, it's kind of a sad story. They were together. They were married for I want to say almost 40, 50 years. They were married for a long time. And one of the, I want to say it was the mom passed first. The mom passed first. And believe it or not, you hear these kind of stories. Once the mom passed after 40, 45 years of marriage, the husband actually passed away within 6 months after the mom, whether it's depression or whatever the case is. So
grief, man.
It was bad. So kids had the property. They were actually making the payments, but they didn't fully transfer, like Daniel, like you're saying. They didn't fully transfer over the deal because they were kind of lost on that. Okay. Also, mom and dad actually left the probate. They actually left the will. Charles, I don't know if you recall, but I think 2 of the sellers were in California, and one of them was actually here in San Antonio. Yeah. And they were tight on funds, so they didn't want to probate the will.
Yeah.
Charles, you recall that?
Yeah, I do. And so we had talked to our attorney, Daniel, and when there's a will, you technically have to probate. But what our attorney told us is that if all the parties that are in the will, named in the will, the succession is going to be the same as the outcome of doing the other route, which is going to the affidavit of heirship, that we could move forward. And that's what we did, man. And so we bypassed the probate, and we went straight into affidavit of heirship.
You mind if I take a quick moment and just kind of help some of the people out in the crowd? So if y'all are watching right now and you've never heard the terms probate or affidavit of heirship, let me explain those two for you real quick. So a probate is where you go in front of a judge and you file some paperwork and you start a process where the judge will look at the homeowners, and the homeowner, not the homeowner, but the deceased person is going to either have a will or not have a will. If they have a will, it's called testate. If they do not have a will, it's called intestate. So if they do not have a will, it's an intestate, but a probate is normally going to cost on the bottom end at least $1,200 and up from there, most often about $2,500. So when you're dealing with these people that have inherited a house, a lot of times they don't have the $2,000 or so to get this probate done, and the property just sits there. An alternative path is called affidavits of heirship. An affidavit of heirship is quite simply a couple of pages stating that I know who the deceased person is, I know who the heirs to the property are, and I swear that this is what's supposed to happen. And the affidavit of heirship can transfer the real estate to the heirs without having to go through probate. And an affidavit of heirship can be done by a title company for free, up to $300 or $400. So it's a lot cheaper than a probate, and it's an alternative to probate for moving things along forward and fast. So excuse me for interrupting there. I just wanted to make sure that the people in the crowd followed and understood what y'all are saying when y'all are using those words.
No, I appreciate you explaining that, because of course, sometimes we're just talking and we do try to illustrate a lot. We're just trying to focus on what we're saying, and having someone like you that knows all this stuff, it really helps out everybody understand what we're talking about. So man, we're really happy to have you on here, helping us with this, man. So definitely, bouncing off of that, what happened was, like Mike said, tight for fun, I'm having a tongue twister. Funds were tight. They weren't getting along. So the objective for us was, of course, we identify the property, we identify the financials of the property. We decided, hey, we want to do this deal. How can we do it? Do we want to buy it cash? It wasn't a good wholesale. We want to tie up, $300,000+ to do this deal, and it just didn't make sense. The strategy was Sub2. So what we had to do is get them all to agree that we were going to do the right thing. Neither one of them wanted each other to have any money from the property. That was one key thing. So we had to get these people's confidence that, okay, that's going to happen. No one's going to get anything. And so we had to get them at the same time to agree to vest interest in one of them. I believe that's the way it went down, right, Mike?
That's the way it went down. I can remember.
We had to do the affidavit of heirship. We had to agree to get all of them to vest interest in one. And there were certain documentation that we had to get our attorney to fill out, so they all were in agreement with what was going to happen. And then we had that one individual conveyed to us. And I'll let Mike explain that.
So going back to that story, Charles, you got a good memory, man, because I know we do a lot of deals, and I kind of put this one on them last minute. But yeah, so the sellers didn't want to do, the heirs didn't want anyone to make money. But the person in San Antonio was the person who we are in contact with. She's the one that had the keys to the house. She's the one that had possession of the property. It was vacant. She's the one that had possession of the property. So she was our point of contact. She was, I kind of guess you want to say, the middle person between the three brothers and sisters. Like Charles said, for whatever reason, they were at odds, but they all wanted the same thing, which was the closure of the parents' name. So how does this work? Loan is in mom and dad's name. They have the property. Mom passed. 6 months later, dad passed. Now the property in Texas, anyways, I know there's people watching from all over the country. In Texas, we did the affidavit heirship route, which Daniel talked about earlier. You do the probate or you do the affidavit. Even though, according to our attorney, even though the probate was there, the probate said, hey, I would like for these 3 kids to have all equal shares of the property. Because it's the same thing as we did the affidavit heirship route, and it goes into the 3 kids equally, it's cheaper, it's faster, and it can be done a whole lot quicker in-house than actually taking the probate route to do the probate for the mom, paying for the court costs, the court fees, waiting for the turnaround time on the judge, and then we would have to do it for the dad. So we said, hey, let's do the affidavit heirship route. All 3 heirs were on board. So once we did the affidavit heirship route, mom and dad's interest went to the 3 kids. Now the 3 kids own the property. Mind you, the 3 kids own the property. They're still alone on this property. Remember, the deed and the interest and the heirs are now the owners. The deed makes you the owner, not the loan. So now the property belongs to the 3 kids. Because it was a tricky situation and those 3 kids didn't trust each other, it had to be done this route. Now, I don't think it'll be happen all the time, but for this route, kid number 1 had to deed to kid number 2. Kid number 3 had to deed to kid number 2. That way, that kid knows, hey, we're both not getting any money. And that's just the way it goes. That's how family works sometimes. So now, mom and dad owned property. 3 kids got it for the affidavit heirship. 2 of the kids gave it to this 1 kid, and then this 1 kid deeded it to us as a Sub2. Remember that, Charles?
Yep.
Can I?
So that's the one. So Daniel, what do you think about that, man?
I've got to make a quick statement because I find this to be interesting. More often than not, as real estate investors, we're always worried about going in and trying to figure out how to satisfy the seller, because we all know that the only thing that seller wants is money. And here we are having a discussion where the strict requirement of the sellers in this case is nobody wanted anybody to make money. They were like, absolutely, we will never do this deal if someone makes money. So I find it very interesting. And I think that those that are watching right now should pay attention to this, because when you really get down to the core cause of why these people are wanting to sell their home, I find personally that it's only about half of the time that money really is their number one motivating factor. It is always a really big thing, and you need to be able to figure out, like, what is the intentions of the seller. But in this particular instance, you've got three sellers, and the absolute number one non-negotiable amongst all three sellers is nobody makes money. And I find that to be extremely interesting, and I think that's something that should be highlighted here, and that the people from the audience should take away, is that if you're always focused on the money, you might miss the mark.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Daniel, because the one thing that Mike and I really work on is what is it the seller wants? What's their pain point? What is it that they're trying to get at? And so on these subject twos, just real quick off topic, because I know we're just got an hour here. I always tell people, look, when you're going after these subject twos, why are you telling people that you want to buy the property? Why are you telling people, I want to make you an offer? Look, you're not making offers to buy subject twos. You're there to help. So I do tell people, hey, look, we buy cash. So Daniel, look, we buy cash. I know you referred to us, we're very interested in the property. So I say that, I buy cash, we're interested because we do that and we're interested. Then I'll say something to the effect as, look, if we can buy cash, we will, but we have options. But not everybody qualifies for those options. So what I had also said in the same breath, I said, we have options. And not everybody qualifies for those options. So I took away, I gave, and I took away. Why? Because in their mind, they believe that they have something to sell. And we're not there to buy anything. It's Sub2. We're there to help. And so if I don't say we buy cash, which we do, they're not going to listen to what we got to say, because they don't care what you want to offer. So they listen because they heard you say you buy cash. And if you do buy cash, then you have every right to say that. Now, the second thing is we have options. So I'm setting them up for what I really want to tell them if I've already identified this as a subject to. So once we're into it and we decide we're not going to do it cash, I'm going to say to you, look, Daniel, I would love to buy your property cash, but I cannot buy your property cash. Let me tell you why. Because you owe too much money. And I go into that. But I did say we offer options, and not everybody qualifies. But I've identified that you do qualify for our program, and this is how it works. By that time, they're good to go. Now, sometimes I get pushback and they'll say, well, I thought you said you were going to buy cash. I said, no, I said, I buy cash. I'm here to help. I'm here to help you out of this situation. I'm here to take on your burden using the process that I just shared with you, which if you have credibility, you've been doing this for a long time. For example, we always say we do this a lot for military, because we do. We have many military subject twos. And so that's how we go about it. That's how I train my people. We're never making offers on these substitutes, man. Now, we've helped some people out of deals. We've got them in the apartment. We've given some travel money, but I ain't buying no subject to, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 above what they owe, because then that's not a true substitute, in my opinion.
That's cool stuff, man. I appreciate that, man. So for those that are just now tuning in, what we're talking about is these guys were approached by an heir to a property. They did not take title to the property yet, but they were the heir. There was 3 heirs involved with them. The 3 heirs were not getting along. They wanted to get this property sold. Both of their parents had died, left the property to them, so they tried to find someone to buy it. And the HBHS crew came in and said, hey, we'll buy your property, but we can't purchase it cash. We do have an option, though, where we could take over the payments on the loan. We can get the titles transferred over, and we can purchase the property from you. But the heir's sole requirement in the sale of this property was nobody makes money. So how did y'all get this done? Where did y'all move forward from there? I heard Michael saying that y'all turned around and did an affidavit of heirship. Where did y'all move forward from there? And how much did those affidavits of heirship cost you?
Mike, let me just say one last thing before you go into it. There was 2 key points that we identified, Daniel, was none of them wanted the other one to benefit. And the most important one was they didn't want their family name to be called out at auction. They didn't want that to be their parents' last thing on earth. So those were the two key things, and then we took it from there. Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry, man.
Sure thing, man. So like we talked about earlier, guys, and I encourage everyone who's watching. I know there's quite a few people watching on Facebook and YouTube. If you guys have any questions, Charles and I definitely want to just share what value, what experience that we've had doing this deal, and maybe we can help someone out doing the same thing. So to recap, mom and dad owned the property. They both had a will, but we went the affidavit heirship route. Now, the affidavit heirship was pretty simple because mom and dad was there. We had the witnesses. We had the 3 heirs on board. They all didn't want anything. They just wanted out. An affidavit, I was, kind of put me on the spot here, Danny, but I would think, I don't know, you're looking at maybe $150 to type up the affidavit heirship. And we had 2, so that's $300. What cost a little more was the deeds prepared by an attorney. Remember, kid 1 and kid 3 both had the deed to kid 2. So we had 2 deeds there. So we had affidavit heirship for mom, affidavit heirship for dad, deed number 1, deed number 2, and then deed number 3 was the deed from the kid number 3 to us, HBHS. Now on this one, because we knew what the exit strategy was going to be, we actually just deeded it to the LLC. Now, Charles and I, we have different strategies for different properties. If it's a buy and hold, we'll put into a trust, a personal name, LLC, or whatever the case may be. So this one was that. So I think all in all, when it came to all the attorney documents and recording, we were just all in probably like just under $1,000, Daniel. A lot cheaper, a lot quicker than doing the probate route.
Did you just say you were all in for about under under $1,000 at closing?
2 affidavits of heirships, 3 deeds, recorded, prepared, all good for about $1,000 compared to the probate route to do for 2 individuals.
Wow, that's amazing. So let me touch base and just recap real quick. And I apologize if this is not working out. But okay, so what you did is you had 3 heirs, and each heir essentially received 1/3 ownership of this property. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, so each heir owned 1/3 ownership of the property, but they wanted to sell it to you, and nobody wanted to make money. So you deeded the property from heir A to heir B, and so now heir B has 2/3 ownership, and heir C has 1/3 ownership. Does that sound about right?
Right.
So then the heir with 2/3 of ownership deeded their ownership to heir C, which now means that heir C has full ownership of the property, and heir A and B are completely out of the scenario, correct?
Correct.
And then once heir C had full ownership of the property, you were then able to purchase the property subject to by taking the ownership interest from heir C to HBHS and leaving the loan in place. Does that sound like what y'all did?
Spot on.
Awesome, guys. Yeah. So if y'all are out there in the crowd watching and that didn't make sense, this is live right now. It is currently 11:25 a.m. on Thursday. So if y'all are watching live and that did not make sense, drop your questions below because we have some powerhouses in the building right now answering these questions for you. So let me turn that back over to y'all guys.
Sure thing. So once we did that, now the reason we did that, in case people were asking, well, why did you just do one deed? Because heir A and heir B didn't trust each other, but they trusted heir C, and they said if heir C is going to sign it over to them, and I know heir A and heir B, we're not going to get the money. So it's crazy. It's crazy how family comes into play, man. But that's why we did that route instead of just doing one deed, all ABC to HBHS.
Understood. All right.
Yeah, you know what the beauty about this property was? Michael's going to show you some photos. Man, dude, it was in pristine condition, man. It was a beautiful property. It was a modern home in a beautiful neighborhood. I even thought about moving into it myself. And I know somebody asked a question a little while ago, do we let the banks know when somebody has passed away? At the end of the show, I'll answer that question, brother. We have some of those. But yeah, man, it was a beautiful property. The rehab, I think, was very, very minimal, right, Mike?
Very minimal. I'm about to break down the numbers so we're all on the same page.
Let's do it, man. Let's break these numbers down, man.
All right, guys. Let me try this one more time. Make sure I'm doing this the right way. So I'm going to do a screen share, and all you should see is just the one slide. Let me know if you see that.
That's it right there.
That's it, Daniel?
Dang, that
just
looks
one
nice.
Slide? Okay. So that's the house. So when we're talking about a wholesale deal earlier, it doesn't have to be the ugly, dirty, stinky house. If someone could put a deal together, now Charles and I could have wholesaled it. We could have kept it as a portfolio. There was multiple different things we could have done, but that was the house. And as a matter of fact, guys, to be honest with you, for those who are watching, Charles and I, we would rather get those type of houses than the other houses that everyone's after that needs a whole bunch of work, all the rehab, the foundation, all that good stuff. We would rather get the houses that's almost turnkey, that has little to no equity, than to take down a wholesale deal and do a deal that makes 5-10 grand. This one is all day long, because that's what, in my opinion, that's where the true wealth is at. And I encourage everyone to do the same.
Now,
But make sure you understand sub-twos and the full ins and pros and cons that come with it before you do that, guys.
now keep in mind that, Daniel, we do a lot of zero equity sub-2. We do sub-2 fix and flips. You know, we do sub-2 Airbnb, sub-2 rentals. This one right here, it was beautiful because it had a lot of equity in it. Well, nice equity in it. You know, it wasn't we could have wholesaled it, but we wouldn't have made as much. So the strategy was take it down sub-2. And I'm going to let Mike burst the bubble here in a minute. But it was just a beautiful deal. What you see in that picture is what we got. That's what we got. I mean, I know Michael's going to break the numbers down to you, but when we walked into that home, that's how it looked. I mean, a little paint here, a little paint there, but minimal, to be honest with you. Mike.
Let's break down the numbers, guys, so everyone's understand what we're looking at, how we look at it, and why we decided to do what we did. So on your screen, guys, just to see what it says, the real deal. I told you guys this was a referral from a wholesaler. Wholesaler had it, just wanted to pass it on, make a quick buck. What they really wanted was to understand how to do it. And of course, Charles and I shared that with them. The owners have passed within 6 months. The ARV was 315. As you can see, the balance on the property was 267. Rehab, guys, is what will trip people out. You know, how do we purchase a property that only needed $1,000 in rehab? The picture I showed earlier, that was actually the picture we took when we first saw the property. Nice, pristine condition, great shape, no major, gated community. Like Charles said earlier, he did have thoughts on moving into it. But that was it. ARV 315, balance 267, rehab $1,000, man, and that's ideal for what we do here. So let's break down to more numbers. The issues and the cost. The issue was the heirs did not have the time or the funds to probate this deal. As we saw the property, knowing the numbers, Charles was like, man, hey, let's just sub-2 it. We can do a light rehab, if that's what you even want to call it, $1,000 rehab, and then we'll just list it. The payments on the property were $1632. The balance on the property was $267. So all in all, fabulous deal for what we did. Now, as a wholesale deal, a traditional wholesale deal, if it was a cash, it wouldn't make sense. What Charles was talking about earlier, we could have sub-2 the property and then wholesale for another buyer. We could have done that as a wholesale deal. But if someone's following the, 70% rule, this one really needed no rehab whatsoever. Even if we probably did the 80% rule, more of as a buy and hold, it was still not that much meat on the bones. But Charles and I are going to show you something on how we did 100% of our ROI. So far, so good, Daniel?
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's take it down. Let's analyze the deal. That's what we're going to talk about. Let's analyze this deal. When it comes to deal analyzing, the front closing cost was $5,000. Now, I mentioned to you guys what the closing cost in the beginning was $1,000. Now, that $1,000 was just to have the property from parents' name to kid's name legally, and then from kid's name to our LLC legally. The documents, the deeds, the recording was $1,000. Now, this one we paid a wholesale fee of $4,000. So I wanted you guys to make sure you guys take away is we paid a wholesale fee of $4,000 on a deal that had no equity as a flip, no equity as much as a buy and hold, but we still made money. The wholesaler made money. The wholesaler took that value as, hey, now I can do the next one if wanted to do so. And that's what we push for. So the front closing cost, guys, $5,000. We know that now. We took this property and it took us less than 2 months to get it sold. Now, why did it take us 2 months to get it sold? And that's why Charles and I like to tackle these properties. It's in a great neighborhood, gated community, zero rehab whatsoever, nice house. Charles, pristine condition, right, Charles? I think you're on mute there, buddy.
You over there, Charles?
First, man, it was pristine condition, man. I mean, like I said, Daniel, I was even thinking about moving into that property. It's just me and my wife. I was like, man, this is a nice home. It's a beautiful community. But yeah, man, I was gonna move into it because I'm not a flashy guy, man. I'm not looking for all the glam. I like the home, but my wife's a little superstitious, so we didn't do it, man.
So let me clarify for you real quick, and let me clarify for the people in the audience real quick. I personally consider Subject 2 to be an acquisition strategy, and that means you're buying the house using Subject 2. Well, once you buy the house, you own it. There's really an unlimited amount of potential exits. You know, I could keep it, I could move into it and use it as my personal residence, as Charles was considering. I could turn around and resell it on the MLS and just take it out as kind of like a subtail. You know, like when you take it down Subject 2 and take it straight to the retail market on the MLS, a subtail deal. You can go out there and you can turn around and use it as a rental. I'm sure that y'all use quite a few of these as rentals. And if you choose not to do it as a rental, you might be able to turn around and resell it on maybe a lease option, or turn around and resell it on a wrap. So there's a lot of ways of getting out of the property. Subject 2 was just the way that they got into it. So let's talk about y'all's exit on this and what were some of the other things that y'all had involved with this.
All right, guys. So we talked about let's talk about the exit, like Daniel said. So the exit, we talk about the front closing costs, 1 to purchase it, 4 to the wholesaler. Because we bought it, did the 1,000 rehab, we were all in. I mean, we got a contract within 10 to 15 days, and then it takes about 30 days to close. So we only had holding costs of 2 months, which was just 2 payments that was in the seller's, the original homeowner's name to do so. We talked about the rehab being $1,000. The selling cost, man, it costs more than the purchasing cost. The selling cost, that's where, as realtors, you know, of course, we got to pay the commission, the title policy, the survey, HOA. So all that part was all in about $12,000. The payoff was at $266. So that was the deal of the numbers. Let's talk about, now that we've done so, now that we went and did this crazy exit strategy where we had the property from, you know, deceased mom and dad to the kids to us, and how we did so. Let's talk about the profits and the end goal for not us, but also for the sellers who wanted this to meet a goal as well. So the sell price, we actually ended up at 310 because they didn't ask for no closing costs. So we went and did a 310. The payoff was 266. Our all-in cost was the 21.5. The 21.5 is there. The front closing costs, the holding cost, rehab, selling costs. If you add that up, that gives you that 21.5. Our all-in cost was 21.5. Our profit was 22.5. So guys, make sure you understand that as well. Not only are we're here to make a profit, but the goal is to help the sellers and what the sellers want. Time, convenience, the closure, like they asked for. In return, after Charles and I paid a wholesaler $4,000 on a deal that had little to no equity, or no equity, to be honest with you, to do a traditional flip, we put in 21.5 out of our pocket. Now, a whole lot better than buying this house cash and then listing it and using that money. But we used the seller's money on a deceased loan, a deceased owner's loan, and we put in 21.5. Now, when we put in 21.5, for someone to get 100% of their return on their investment, I think is a good deal in a span of 2 to 3 months. Now, is it a home run for most people? No, it's not a huge home run, because the profit that it made was $20,000. And I'm gonna put it here one more time so you guys can see. The profits of 22.5, but for a 21.5 investment, and then of course to get that back and then make a true profit of 22.5. Man, the true takeaways are the heirs wanted closure. We got that for them. The deal was closed when the end buyer bought it, so the loan was paid off. The sellers didn't get the foreclosure like they wanted to. We used the seller's money, or their loan, the deceased seller's loan, and we applied it towards the deal. 21.5 total out of pocket for over 100% ROI. In my books, that's a good deal all day, every day, for a span of, I don't know, Charles, what, 2.5 months? 2 months the most?
Yeah, and it was just about 3 miles down from our office, man. Maybe 5 miles, right?
Yeah.
Just down from our office in a beautiful neighborhood. So our exposure, my exposure to that deal was minimal, man. Just going to see it again, go put a sign, and then that was it, man. The next thing I knew, it was sold.
That's crazy. So over here, I've got a couple of questions, and before I move on to those questions, let me just touch base real quick and look at this. So let's remove some of the finer details, and I'm just going to kind of drill in on some of the key things. You found a property that had a loan on it that made the deal kind of not a deal for a traditional buyer. There wasn't enough equity to go in there and flip it. There wasn't enough equity to really go in there and use it as a rental or whatever it was. It just really was a thin deal that wasn't exciting. But because of the ability of you to go in there and take the property over subject to, meaning you bought the house and left the loan in place. You didn't pay the loan off, which means you didn't have to come up with $266,000 somewhere, whether it be a hard money lender or from your own back pocket. You were able to go ahead and buy the property and not come out of pocket for that big chunk of change. And then once you now have ownership of the property, you did have to do some very minimal repairs. You went in there, made a quick paint job on it, did a little bit here and there, about $1,000 worth of work. Between the purchase price, the lien, and everything else, you're into it for about $290,000. But $267,000 of that came from the existing lien in place, so you didn't really have to come up with that money. Does that sound right?
Exactly 100% correct, Daniel.
And then you take that, and then you took it out to the MLS after you did the slight, just little touch-ups. You took it to the MLS and sold it directly on the MLS, and then after selling it on the MLS, your net proceeds ended up being about $25,000. So you were able to make $25,000 on a deal that most people would have never been able to do because you were able to use the existing loan in place, meaning that your risk was very much minimized because the bulk of the acquisition cost was taken care of by the seller's existing loan. And that is where I see the power in subject to. And if I recall correctly, that's exactly what y'all did, and that is exactly how y'all were able to do a deal that most people would have walked away from, yet you still made $25,000 inside of less than 60 days. Now, I don't know about you, but there's a lot of people watching right now. Let's see some hearts, let's see some likes, let's see some love if you would like to make the same $25,000 in 60 days, because while Charles, Mr. Big Man over there, and Michael said, oh, it was a small deal, it's $25,000, you got to remember these guys are making a ton of money on real estate, but I don't know about you, $25,000 is a pretty big deal for me. So $25,000 inside of 60 days is a good month for me, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good month. We try to tackle stuff on, man. This one was something that was referred to us, but sometimes our people get deals and we look at them and normally Mike and I might pass on them because, our time is very valuable to us. But we've done all type of deals. We've done all type of deals. For one, it brings our people some experience. It also sharpens the learning curve, because you're always learning in this business, man, always learning. And so by us doing lots and lots of deals, we were able to figure this deal out pretty quickly. So that's the benefit of being engaged, and talking to people and learning from people,
That's the benefit, like Charles said. And just to share another nugget, guys, because I know this come across some other individuals, other wholesalers or other Sub2 buyers who do the same thing we do. When it comes to the deceased person, can you do it? Yeah. When we got the contract on the end buyer, send it to a title company does the research. They're going to see that the deed is in our name, so they don't question that. They're going to see, hey, there's a loan here to Wells Fargo. We got access to the online statements. The kids have interest in the loan now because that's their parents' loan. And of course, they did it to us, so we got the POA from them. Granted, the Wells Fargo, of course, they want their money, so they provided the payoff and got clear title, no issues. Buyer moved in, happy, and it's just a done deal for everybody. For us, for the wholesaler, for the seller, for the kids who want a closure, and then, of course, a happy buyer in the end who wanted to be in that property.
Yeah, so Daniel, on another note, we would have loved to have kept that property, man, long term, truth be told. But that's not what the sellers wanted, man. They wanted the property out of their name, and we had to come up with a strategy to figure out, okay, like how do we do this, And so, we made up our mind real quick how we're going to move forward with the objective of fulfilling what they wanted. And so we would have loved to keep the property. Honestly, man, that was a beautiful home, and it had some good equity in it. And now it's been several years. I'm sure the property appreciates a lot higher. So yeah, we would have loved to kept that deal, but the end result was. The end objective was to do what the family members wanted to accomplish, and that was, to have closure. And so that's what we did. And
yeah. So I definitely encourage anyone who has questions to please feel free to ask. Charles and I would love to provide value if we can. I know some question that we had before is, you guys sub to it because it's a deceased loan. Do we have any properties now in the portfolio that's kind of the same, but we didn't flip it, we didn't sell? And the answer is yes. We've actually sub to properties before when mom and dad passed. Kids has the property now, no equity because they just bought it 2 years ago. We did sub to it with the deceased person on the loan, and we actually wrapped it. Yeah, so we actually wrapped the property. So we do hold portfolios in our portfolios, properties where, unfortunately, the loan owner, the loan individual has passed, but yet again, not a wholesale deal. Kids want out, no equity. You can't really use a realtor because the 6% commission will eat up all the profits, if any, and the kids will have to come to pocket to sell. So yeah, that's just a little golden nugget there, Daniel.
So does the people watching want to know how to get some of these deals, man? That's the question. I don't know. Can we get some love here, Daniel?
I'm sure we can get some love, guys. So, like, we've got right now close to 100 people watching across the two channels. And between the two channels, let's see some love come in. Let's see some love come in. Like, I do have some questions for y'all, though, because I think these are some important questions that I see coming in. One of the things that I personally would like to get out there and I would like to see delivered to these wonderful people watching. We had a bank loan in place, and it was in Mr. and Mrs. Seller's name. The heirs took over the property, and I appreciate everybody throwing out that love. I see a bunch of love coming in, especially over there on Facebook. Let's show that love. Let me get this answered, though, because this is a very important piece that I think all of y'all should hear, and it's a very important step to this. The loan was in Mr. and Mrs. Seller's name. Mr. and Mrs. Seller has now died. The heirs have taken ownership to the property via deed, and now HBHS owns the house because the heirs deeded the house to HBHS. How did you handle communication with the bank? Because the bank says, I'm not allowed to talk to anybody other than Mr. or Mrs. Dead Person. And I hate saying it that blankly, but I want to make sure that it's very clearly understood that the two owners are dead. How were you able to communicate with the bank? Because the bank says, the only people that are allowed to talk to me are the people on my loan. Y'all are not on my loan. Y'all aren't allowed to talk to me. So how are you able to handle that? And how was your conversations with the banks so that way that HBHS could adequately talk to the bank and handle this transaction?
So on this, in some cases, first and foremost, look, the bank wants to know, who when somebody passes away, who's getting the property, who has interest in the property. And if it's a will, that's usually settled by probate, right? So the objective is, one, like on some of the deals that we have where people are deceased, we have to submit to the bank, the death certificates. We have to submit to them, who the rightful heirs are. And then, for example, and some of these deals, we put them into trust. At least before, we used to have them in LLCs, but now we put them into trust so that we can have a trustee, which usually me, oversee the property, the administration of the property. And what we find is that these banks, they just want to get paid, man. They want to get paid, and they don't mind talking to a trustee that's overseeing the trust, administering all things property. So the key thing is, I would say to anybody, don't try to hide it. Let me give you a real world example, man. Don't try to hide this from a bank. Let me tell you why. I have a client. It's actually a family member, man. And bless their hearts, man. We helped them get into a property about 5 years ago, and the grandfather purchased a property for them using a VA loan, and it's a fabulous deal. And the thing is, when he passed away, I said to them, "Look, you need to let the lender know that he's passed, and you need to get with the the tax office and let them know that the homestead has to be removed, because what's going to happen is he has 100% disability. You're not paying taxes right now. So 5 years fast forward, and now the tax office is saying, hey, you owe $14,000, and they're freaking out. And so they're like, hey, do we run down there to the county and make payments? I said, you can't do that, because you got to contact the bank and let them know what happened, and maybe just say, hey, we told the appraisal district, they never changed it. We told you guys never changed it. That's the play you got right now. Because see, if you go pay the tax office and then the lender finds out, the lender's going to try to collect what's on their books, and then it's going to be a big mix-up. You pay the tax office, the lender's trying to collect. No, you got to go to the lender now that happened. Tell them, hey, I owe these amount of taxes. My father died, my grandpa died, 5 years ago. What can we do? And the banks don't pay those taxes because the bank's not going to risk getting foreclosed. And then they're going to come after you. At that point, you're looking possibly at a mod, maybe payment arrangements. You're going to have to work something out, pay all the money to them, but you got to go through the lender. So having said that, Daniel, that's not a sub-2, but let's say we would have took it down sub-2, those are the type of things you got to know. You got to know that type of stuff because that only comes with experience or dealing with people that have experience, because you can get into the weeds real quick, man, not be able to get out of it, and so I always say to everyone, don't hide it from the lender, man. If somebody passed away, you're going to take a property sub-2 and you're going to administer that property for long-term or even short-term, have all your paperwork in order, make sure everybody knows what's going on. And for us on a sub-2 that we're taking over for a deceased individual, we're going to get whoever needs to be vested on that deal vested, and then they're going to convey to us, and we're going to identify to the lender who we are, and we're administering this loan. That's what it comes down to.
Awesome stuff. I'm answering some questions for y'all on YouTube and Facebook, so if y'all give me just a minute, I'll hop in with y'all.
Another thing that I guess we can share is, I think the question was, do we tell the bank? Yeah, we do inform the bank. I mean, it's the right thing to do, especially if you're going to hold it long term. One of the easiest ways to do is actually contact the bank and say, hey, affidavit of heirship is done in the state of Texas. Here you go. As you can tell, we are the 3 heirs, and we're the 3 individuals who own the property now. And then the bank will usually change it from John Smith to now the loan is in the estate of John Smith. That's how you can update. Now, of course, you always want to tell the bank. Now, could you get away and not tell the bank? Now, this is something that Charles and I, we did as a sub-2 flip in 2 months. The kids actually had user ID, logins, and password for the lender. So, even if we didn't tell the bank, and we know that we can get this done in 2 months, by the time the bank would even find out, the property was sold, cashed out, funded. So what we could do is just do the affidavit of heirship, use a user ID and password, make the monthly payments for those 2 months, go on there, create a payoff, send it to the title company, and all that be said and done, that the bank will get their money, not even knowing that the seller is actually deceased.
In other words, man, be strategic, man. Pick your battles. Right. If you're going to go long term, disclose. If you're gonna pop off in 2-3 months, you're gonna get it done. Don't ruffle any feathers, man. But be strategic in what you're doing and know what you're doing. I've seen many guys get into problems when doing these deals, man, and it's because they're not really engaging in what really needs to get done. So this type of transaction can come back and bite you. But for us, it was just normal, man. We just got it done, and you made a quick 20 some G's, and Mike didn't let me go to Vegas like I wanted to, but.
So I got a question over here on YouTube from Bernard Mack. He's asked this question twice, and I think it's a great question. Guys, can y'all give me some real quick feedback? Kind of tell me what your buy box is for a subject to deal. He's basically asking, what is your criteria for moving forward with the subject to deal? What does HBHS consider to be a good subject to deal?
I'm going to break this down to you guys real quick, man, because I know we're running short on time. So here's the deal. A lot of people weren't doing this for a long time, man, but we go after zero equity. We go after a lot of zero equity properties. Let me tell you what that means to us. That means new homes. We're always updating every year. We're always looking at 3 to 4 year homes. We consider 5-year homes for this particular strategy, zero equity. Okay, we target new builds where the builder's still building, right? Especially the military, because we know they get orders in 4 years, or they bought in 2 years. In 2 years, they don't have enough equity to sell. So we know if we can go help them, they're going to be more. They're going to be more motivated to just say, yeah, let's rock and roll. Let's do the subject to you're talking about, using the strategy that I gave earlier on and letting people know you buy cash, but at the same time, man, I got options. So we target new builds. Why? Zero equity, man. Unless they were pigs. And I'm not saying people are pigs. I'm just saying if people live like that, then you're gonna find a messed up property. But usually, what you're gonna find a nice home, modern, in great condition. And those are a lot easier to sell because that's what people want right now. That's what people want. And if you're trying to sell, a $250,000 property, trust me, man, unless it's historical, nobody's trying to buy a 250 1970 home that's not fixed up in a shitty neighborhood. So we go after new builds. What we find is that we can make money on them 3 ways. There's actually 4 ways, but Mike doesn't like me to talk about the 4th way. That's a higher, that's a more complicated method. But we make money 3 ways. We make money on the down payments. We make money on the passive income. We make money on the passive equity. We build the properties. Now keep in mind that we're taking them and we're wrapping them. We're losing the appreciation. Something people don't really talk about is sometimes you get those properties back, right? Now we won't ever foreclose on one person, but sometimes we get these properties back, and at that point we turn them into rentals. Why? Because now we capture the appreciation that was paid down, and we capture all the future. We capture all the equity that was paid down, and we capture all the future appreciation because you lose that on a wrap. And I'm talking quick, guys, but I'm trying to get this information to you. The other way that we look at it is equity. Now, but everybody's going for equity, and that's what turned us away. And we said, hey, let's go for zero equity and figure that out. So everybody's going after equity, man. They're going after pre-foreclosures, which is great. I'm talking about going after properties that people are not even behind. Now, we get a lot of properties referred to us where people are behind, and we entertain those. But we have a cap. We're trying to stay. The going rate in San Antonio, we're going to wrap for a down payment is $20,000. So we want to be in $20,000 or less. We want to get our money out. Now, we have gone above that, and we will. We have gone above that. When we feel the property's in a great condition, days on market are short, and so we will entertain going up to 25, 30, we've even gone up to 40,000. But if we know it's a hot area where we can get that down payment and reimburse ourselves, now we're making money on the passive income and the passive equity that we're building into the property. The third way we look at this, guys, is kind of in the medium, 1970, 80, 90s, 2000, early 2000 homes. So some of these properties, they seem like they have equity, man. They seem like they got equity because you're like, oh shit, they got $40,000 of equity. But a 10-year-old home is tired. If you're looking at a 10-year-old home, 2,200 square feet, 2006, you definitely got to dump at least 15 G's in there. So if you thought you had 40,000 of equity, now subtract about 15. God forbid. Hopefully you don't need to put 20 into it, but let's just say 15 just to get it up and going. But let's just say they're behind 10,000. Now you're into 25,000. Now that 40 doesn't look as good. And what if you have to hold the property for 4 months and the payment is 1,500? That's another 6 G's. So you're at 31,000 now. So people need to understand that just because it looks like it has $40,000 of equity, sometimes it doesn't. And so you have to understand what you go for. So what I say to people is this: when you're looking at properties that are 1970s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, look and see when they got a new loan. So if you see that they got a new loan in 2017 or 2018 or 2019, you can assume that property is rehab. And if that property is rehab, that's one less thing you have to worry about. So now you're like, oh man, this property is rehab. I'm not gonna have to put all this money into it. How far behind are you? 10,000. The going rate here in my city is 15,000, and you want 3,000. It's gonna cost $2 to close. I'm gonna wash. I'm gonna invest 15. I'm gonna get my 15 back. I'm gonna make passive income and passive equity in this property. Boom. What do you think about that?
Sounds great, man. Sounds absolutely great. So we are.
It doesn't sound like I've been doing this a minute, man. Or what, man?
I love question right there, man. Hopefully everyone caught up with that.
I like the way you broke that down, because this is something that you'll see with the advanced investors like HBHS. They understand their market conditions. They know that their typical down payment's around that $20,000 mark. So they know that if they're looking at a property and the all-in cost to get that deal done is less than 20 grand, they can essentially get this property for free. So really, when you're asking that question, Bernard, I think the simplest way of saying this is that they know in San Antonio, they can get 20 grand down. And if they can get this deal done for less than $20,000, then they can get a free house. And how many houses would you buy if you could get them for free? I think the honest answer to that is an unlimited amount. Like if you figure out how to get free houses, and that is one of the things that you as a new investor should be striving to learn by going out there and seeking information from guys like these, figuring out exactly how you can do deals with no money out of your back pocket. So there you are buying unlimited 100% free houses. So I did have another question pop up, and we have about 8 minutes left in this show, and I don't really want to run over, but it's a question that I feel that needs to be answered, and I find it to be a very good question. Jocelyn Connor asks, how would this deal have been different if this was a reverse mortgage? Do y'all have an answer for that?
Yeah, I'll answer that. I know I've been talking a little bit, but I'll tell you straight out, we don't do reverse mortgage sub-twos. I mean, if we're going to do that deal, and if it's a great deal, we'll just cash it out. But look, I know a few guys that will do them, but we ain't gonna get in that boat. Let me tell you why. That's a sinking ship quick, man. At any given time, that lender can call that note. And look, we've had a couple notes called on us, man. People say it doesn't happen. It does happen. About 3 years ago, Mike?
Yeah.
We had 2 notes called on us, man. And we learned from those experiences. So we were really careful about that. But reverse mortgages, if it's a great deal, figure out a way creatively, and it's all based on the numbers, to take that transaction out of the lender's hands. Boom. And now you go do something beautiful with it. Like, for example, we have a young gentleman that was on our midnight hustle the other night. He has a fabulous deal. There's a reverse wholesale where one of the heirs on the property says, "Hey man, I'm willing to cash this deal out and then owner finance it back to you at this price. I think the payoff was 124. He says, I will owner finance it to you or seller finance it to you at 154 at 0% interest, 30 years. I told that dude, you need to do that deal, man. You need to do that deal all day long. And I showed him three ways how to make money on that deal. For you guys who want to know, you got to look at the Midnight Hustle replay. 3 ways, man. That's a fabulous deal. I got so many people calling me, how do I get that type of deal? It doesn't come around very often. You're not gonna find an heir that says, hey, I'll pay off the reverse deal on this 124, sell it back to you at 154 at 0% interest for the next 30 years. Now that's a fabulous deal. I gave him 3 ways how to make money. 1, how to make a little bit of money. 1, how to make okay money. 1, how to make fabulous money. So when it comes to that, Jocelyn, look, HPHS is not going to jump into a sinking ship. Some people believe in reverse Sub2s. That's not our game, and so that's my answer to that. Mike, you want to comment on that, brother?
One thing that Charles and I would always say, if we don't do it, we're going to say, hey, we just don't do it. We're not going to fluff around, try to figure out an answer on the spot. Reverse wholesaling, we just don't do it. It's just not our thing. So, Charles pretty much hit it right on the head.
Well, reverse Sub2, I think what she's asking,
Reverse mortgage, my bad.
Yeah,
reverse mortgage. We want Sub2 reverse mortgage.
Yeah. So you got to figure out a way. Some of these deals are great. Some of these, and we have done some reverse mortgages, but we're going to take it out of the lender's hands. Just like they say, sometimes you got to take it out of the referee's hands. You got to take it out of you're boxing, you got to take it out of the judge's hands, and that's what you got to do with those. I would not entertain a subject to reverse mortgage deal.
All right, guys.
I don't know how much time we got, but I see a question on Facebook. I'd love to answer if you got a minute.
Yeah, let's answer them because I got a couple of them.
Okay, so I'm gonna call him Rehab King. I think it's Okino. Yep. Rehab King Johnson says, "What's your minimum projected cash flow to enter a deal?" The minimum projected cash flow to enter a deal when we do these Sub2 wraps. Now, Charles and I want to say two episodes ago on this TV show, Propelio TV. REI Hustle, we talked about solar panels. That solar panel deal is probably one of our best deals. It pays almost $750 a month cash flow. And the question is, what's the minimum projected cash flow to enter a deal? Ideally, I would say most of our deals probably hover, Charles, around, I don't know, 250 to 350, thereabouts. Yeah. But the question is, and I want to answer this question because we literally just closed this deal yesterday. And this deal that we closed yesterday is actually negative cash flow. I don't know how many investors are going to boast to say, hey, I closed a deal that's going to make negative cash flow. But Charles and I did it. I'm not boasting. I'm just saying, hey, because I don't think people want to tell other people, hey, I bought this deal and I'm going to negative cash flow. But Charles and I literally just closed this deal yesterday. Happens to be a subject to in Killeen, Texas, which if you guys are in Texas, is by Fort Hood, which is the largest military base in Texas and probably the world, to be honest with you. Fort Hood is one of the biggest bases here. Veteran bought it. About a year goes into it. She has to PCS, where she has to move to another location. She contacts a property management company. And they charge 10%. So she is now negative cash flowing $150 a month. She's been doing so for the past 4 or 5 months. Negative cash flow. So she comes to us, or a wholesaler, believe it or not. A wholesaler out of Houston gets the property, calls us to San Antonio. So if you guys are watching this, of course, by all means, give us a call. Wholesaler out of Houston gives us a call, say, hey, there's this property. Tenants are already in place. Property management company already in place. And she wants out because she doesn't want to deal with the $150 every month, and she doesn't want this lingering on her. So we said, hey, let's look at it. Now, this being about a good 3.5 hours away from San Antonio, Charles and I, at this point in our careers, are pretty comfortable just buying properties now without even seeing the house. We got a buddy in Killeen. I asked him to go look at the house, but this happened to be in the spike of Corona. The tenants actually denied anyone to go to the house because of Corona, which makes sense. We couldn't fault them on that. So in order for us to see the house, we told the tenants, hey, can you send us a couple photos of the inside of the house and a quick 1-minute video? And they did. So looking at the videos and looking at the photos and knowing the numbers, we said, hey, let's go ahead and take it down. Now, why would we take it down when it's a negative cash flow 150? We actually just closed on it yesterday. Now that we closed on it, we called the property management company and said, hey, we're going to go ahead and discontinue service. The property management company saving us $125 a month. That now means said, now our cash flow is negative $25 a month. Now, we did this deal because, one, it's a property that we purchased almost zero out of pocket, minus the wholesaler fee and a little bit of closing costs. Two, it has about a good $25,000 in equity. Three, $25 negative cash flow is not that much. In 1 year, that's only $300. Charles and I are okay spending $300 a year on this one property that tenants are paying the balance down every year. The value of the property should go up every year, and we revisit the property and let's just say, I don't know, 7-8 years. Right now there's $25,000 in equity. In 7-8 years, as the balance goes down and the value goes up, I'm sure that property can reach almost to $100,000 spread. So to answer that question, who's a Rehab King?
Yes.
There's really no right answer. Ideally, 250 would be nice. 300, the more the better. But we also look at the negative ones too, and I hope that makes sense, Daniel.
It does make sense. So I'm going to wrap this up. We are right at the hour-long mark. I have one question that came in on Facebook. I may have lost it, but I remember essentially what it said. It came in from, and if I don't get this pulled up immediately, I'm going to move forward. Excuse me if I said your name wrong, but Joven, Eugenio, you're asking, you're working on an inherited Sub2 right now, but you've got a memorandum of contract that's blocking the close. And how do you get that resolved? You're going to need to have your title company and or your attorney reach out to whoever filed that memo and get them to release it. I mean, ultimately, if they could not perform on the property, they need to be able to show proof of performance and their ability to perform. And if they are unable to do that, they need to release it. And if not, they're opening themselves up for some considerable troubles on that side. So you're going to need to have a lawyer get involved with you on that and or reach out directly to that person that's locking it up with that memo. So go ahead and move forward with that. For everybody watching right now, I'd like for y'all to go out there, show some love, follow these guys. If you go to Facebook, look for HomeBuying HomeSelling Association, wonderful group of theirs. Charles Hernandez, Michael Llanas, both of y'all have done a lot for the community, have done a lot continuously for this community. Thank you both so much. Any final thoughts, anything that these people could do to help support y'all or work with y'all?
Yeah, I mean, I would, Charles, if you don't mind, let me share this real quick. It takes no more than 5 seconds, Daniel. So you guys, like Daniel said, if you guys don't mind, feel free to join the HomeBuying HomeSelling Association. It is a Facebook group where all we want to do is provide value to you guys, provide value on what we have done in the past. We have a website called Turn Up the Hustle. So feel free to visit that website. You can follow Charles and myself on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And when you get to YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe. Daniel has blessed us with the opportunity to have the REI Hustle, which is what we're doing now on Propelio TV, guys. And this is every Thursday at 11, where we're analyzing our deals, real numbers, real strategies like the one we did today, where we Sub2 a deceased loan. Next week, we got something in store for you guys. So you can definitely check that out. Every Wednesday at 6:30 Central Standard Time. We do have a podcast, so you can tune into that. The crazy thing is, every other Tuesday, we have what they call the Midnight Hustle. And if you guys don't know, Charles likes to talk. And when he drinks, he talks even more.
Drink great wine, man.
And when he drinks his wine, he talks even more. So at the Midnight Hustle, which was 2 days ago, man, Daniel, we had almost 80 people tune in at 1:30, 1:45, 2 o'clock in the morning. That tells me there's a lot of night owls out there, a lot of hustlers who can't sleep because they're always thinking about real estate. So the Midnight Hustle is definitely something to tune into. And I do want to make one quick announcement. We talked a lot about Sub2s, and it happens to be because that's what we do for the most part. With the solar panels, we use the seller's money to flip a property. We Sub2 a deceased person's loan. If you guys are interested in more about Sub2s, the best place and one of the best places to go to is propelio.com/academy. A bunch of free content, especially on Sub2s with Grant Kemp. So definitely check out the Academy. If you guys haven't visited the Academy, you guys need to check it out. Of course, with all the data that propelio.com provides. And of course, you can always visit our YouTube channel or our Facebook group at HomeBuying HomeSelling Association.
I'll say this to you, Daniel. The other night we're doing the midnight hustle, and we're working on some of our educational stuff, man. But we've been so busy out here grinding all these years. But hey, man, like Mike said, somebody asked us a question. Hey, man, how can I get a 1, 2, 3 step on this, man? I hear you guys talking about it and I'm getting value. Well, we always say, man, if you're gonna follow someone, go to the Propelio Academy. There's a lot of wealth there, but there's a cat there by the name of Grant Kemp, man. And if you want somebody to break it down, then he already got that established. So we have no fear, man. That's one thing in this industry that I hate, man. We have no fear of referring someone else who's in our same space. Hey, man, if you're doing something good and you're bringing the pain and you're helping the people, why wouldn't we share that? So we share that all the time, Daniel. We believe in the Academy. We believe in helping. And a couple of days ago, we also launched, starting next Thursday, and I'm hoping you might want to get involved in that. We're going to go ahead and bring in the Spanish, man. HBHS Latino, man. HBHS Latino. We're going to go ahead and start bringing the pain in Spanish. And then of course, man, we have the cash hour, Manny Cash, on Friday every 6 o'clock. He's closing deals live, man. For people to watch that, people are always interested in that. So that's what we're doing, Daniel. We're doing that to just to share, give back. People ask us, what does it do for you? You know what, man? We're trying to show people that you can do this the right way, man, not on the backs of other people, man. So we're just trying to give back, man. And I'm not saying we won't ever do a private mentorship. We're doing one right now, free, cost. But there has to be an exchange of value. We're sharing something with you. You're sharing something with us, and everybody's leveling up, man. And so that's what we believe in. That's why we're happy to be on this show.
Awesome, man. Well, I really do appreciate and respect everything y'all are doing. Y'all are really helping out the community. I'm excited about HBHS Latino. There's just not a lot of Spanish content out there, and I know that y'all are some experts, and I'm really excited to hear that that's coming to the table. So, guys, thank you very much. For anybody out there watching right now that has never heard of Propelio.com, Propelio.com is absolutely the best place to go for all of your lead lists. 150,000 potential lead list downloads per month. That's 5,000 per day. National MLS comps, Driving for Dollars app, as well as a professional website and email for your business. So if you're out there running around with your @Gmail, your @Yahoo.com emails, and you're trying to do a subject to transaction, just remember that seller is going to look at that email and they might feel a little uncomfortable with a fly-by-night wholesaler at gmail.com email. So if you want to establish yourself with a professional email, professional website, access to lead lists, access to national comps, access to the Propelio mobile app that allows you to drive for dollars, run comps, and do all of those other great things, then don't forget to check out Propelio.com for a 14-day free trial. No credit card required. Go check that out. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and I'll let y'all kick this out of here, Michael and Charles.
Man.
That's pretty much for us, man.
Propelio Academy, follow us, man. Get busy, man. Take action. That's the most important thing, brother.
All right. Well, much love to everybody out there, and I'll see y'all next Thursday with the REI Hustle from Michael and Charles over there at HBHS. Y'all have a good one. Thank you, guys. Cool.